Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, Grace.
Spreading out, that was it. I'm looking at maybe at night with the gym, she has a good feet in this year, but I'm trying to get farther away from people.
Oh, okay. Oh, sick.
She's one of the best. I can sit up here.
Tell Alice what the Bible things is returning. How about the Bible?
It's going to be part of my introduction on Sunday.
I took it from up there. I'll put it up there.
We don't want Catholics with the Bible. Dangerous.
No. What's your first name? Grace. I mean, Grace.
Grace Simon, right? That's right. It's like you have two first names.
Yeah, I know.
Hi, Grace.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
I got a new Bible from
I heard.
my friend.
I heard it's a leatherette Bible.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's up to date.
It's up to date.
It says everything it says in the other one. I don't understand.
Oh, that's crazy.
There's so many different. I know.
Huh? So many versions.
I just think there's so many different versions.
I thought it said virgins. Versions.
Sorry. The Jim was reading last week was completely different. That's okay. I'm not, it's just that.
Oh, there's translation issues, you know. There's translation issues. Right? Hi, Jim. Yeah, and then, you know, do you actually want to communicate? That's a whole other kettle of fish. Breathe on it. You can sit wherever you want. It's your church. I know, you're being very thoughtful. All right.
So I learned something new. I went to the dentist. I picked his name out of the file.
Yeah.
So he sounds European and different.
Nice.
I said to me, well, the doctor was gone. I don't know how he got into that. My sister, and I was saying, it took me 94 years to get my of his face. And he went into a whole story, and he was laughing, and he said, did you ever hear him tour a Europe? Evidently, it's an area near the Caspian Sea. That includes Persia, Armenia, and the third, I think Egypt. And he was Persian.
Persians are awesome.
Doesn't exist.
I know a lot of Persians.
But he's fascinating. Every time I go, I wanted to get a story.
There you go. Good. Oh yeah, Persian. Yeah, it's very interesting. It's the most interesting thing you're going to hear today.
What is? Well, laughing, what did you say?
I don't want to repeat it.
It is English.
All right. Well, I think, did the bus show up or what? How you doing, Karen? Oh, hi, Lynn. I just have a couple just little basic warm-up questions. How many of you have read the Greek writers? Homer?
Well, partly some of them. Oh, it was fifth grade.
Fifth grade?
Wow. It was probably in a
Come on. I hope so.
not in Greek, she's done. No, it wasn't in Greek.
Not in Greek.
Some of them.
You did? Yeah. Homer, the Odyssey,
Yes.
right? Yeah. Yeah, you read that stuff? Sorry?
I read Homo, but it was.
I thought you said Hogwarts. Yeah, okay. Any other Greek writing literature? Plato? Plato, Phaedo?
I read some playwright, but I can't remember which one.
Okay, so, okay. Now, I asked that question because, is this too loud? Okay, loud for me. I asked that question because there's been, for centuries, a criticism of the Bible because it's not written very well. Like classic literature, it doesn't read very well.
Talking about the St. James now? Is that?
No, any of them. Just the Hebrew and the Greek are
Oh,
just,
the basic.
you know,
Yeah, the
yeah.
basics.
if you're really ambitious and you want to go to Calvin Seminary, which I did, and then they rejected me, of course. They wanted me to take classical Greek before I got there. Yeah, before I got, and Dutch and Latin, and they're pretty strict about stuff like that.
Because it's
So-
Calvinist reform, so that's where they thought.
It's Christian Reformed, yeah. The conservative angle of Reformed churches. Yeah, I went to Calvin College and
Oh, and then this
Yeah.
was Calvin.
seminary, yeah. So they do that because they don't like foreigners. Anyway, that's not.
I'm sure they're swarmed with foreigners.
They're not. They're not. Anyway, there's a long story behind all that. But anyway, there's this criticism of the Bible, the Old Testament and New Testament, because it's not very slick. It's not very good literature. And so, I mean, you hear this, I've heard this kind of from time to time for the last 50 years. And I've thought about that for years, and because the New Testament is written in Greek, right? But it's Koine Greek. Koine Greek is the Greek of the streets. It's the kind of English you hear in Poughkeepsie. Yeah, or New York, right, or Brooklyn, or you know what I mean, the Bronx. It's that kind of English. You know what I mean? It's yeah, yo, my man, and so on. It was done on purpose. They could have written it in classical Greek. They could have.
Then no one would have read.
Well, not no one.
Well, except those who could read classical.
That's right. It was classical Greek was read by the intelligentsia, by the the what, the educated, and so on. So they made that determination early, very early. We have no classical texts, whatever, none. They're all Koine Greek, all of them. And there's kind of a editorial decision about that, and it has, huh?
They were very smart.
Well, why do you say that, Rose?
Of course, all people could read it.
Everybody could read it,
And if they
or
couldn't
hear
read,
it,
that's what I'm
or
thinking.
hear it.
They could understand it when it
Yeah.
was written.
Because
So-
don't forget, they didn't even have spoken.
That's right.
People who, I don't even know what
They had
wrote.
some, right? I mean, some of the famous libraries of Alexandria and so on, right?
Papyrus or whatever.
Well, yeah, and they started making paper to the Chinese made paper long time ago. But that's, the word that you use, Grace, is everyone. Everyone could read it. Everyone could hear it. That is a huge, important word, right? Well, we say, of course, in year 2025. It wasn't, of course, back then. It was really revolutionary. This, of course, everyone. That people, ordinary people can hear this and understand it. And there's a big word they threw at us in seminary, the perspicuity of Scripture. The average person can get it.
Yeah,
Is it
in Greek instead of in Hebrew, too, meant, right? Non-Jews could get it.
right? It's a democratizing of the faith, democratization. And if you see this on a political scale, let's say, religious too, religious political, because they weave together over the next 2,000 years this idea of democratization of faith. Anyone can grab it, and anyone might be grabbed by it. Is foundational to the language itself. It's kind of cool, isn't it? Is everybody with me on this one? It seems so simple, right?
Right.
But it's not. It's heavily charged theology having to do with what is a person. What is a person? We had this really in spades back in the 16, 1700s here in this country, having to do with slavery, for instance. Can a slave who's not seen as a person become a Christian and therefore baptized? It's Judge Rosenblatt, do you know that name?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a appellate judge in New York. We're kind of getting to know each other a little bit.
Oh, he's a great guy.
He's a great guy, kind of a genius,
Yeah.
but really nice, really nice genius.
Yes, he is.
It's kind of how I see him. Anyway, we were paired together at a wedding reception. That's how I met him. So, and oddly, he didn't have a ride home, so we took him, he and his wife, home. Anyway, that was odd. But he and I are talking about this too. This idea of becoming a person of faith and then being baptized, but you're not a person. How does that work? You see what I mean? We had, right, it doesn't work. So places like Virginia and North Carolina and so on, they would tie themselves up like Gumbies legally. Can property become a Christian? And this went on for 200 years until the Civil War, really. 2.5.
What about in New England and New York?
Less so. Yeah, less so.
Because
Still
we
a
had
problem.
slaves too.
Yeah, we had slaves here too, for sure.
Earlier,
Yep.
before the Civil War.
Yeah. I'm reading his book right now. This is all free information. I'm reading his book right now. It's called The Eight. There are 8 slaves who were on a trip with their owners, and part of the trip meant that they took a boat to New York City to get another boat. The minute they stepped on soil, on New York soil, they became persons.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
by then they'd abolished.
They had abolished slavery by then. So I mean, literally, when they took one step on New York soil, they were, and then, so there's a huge case, and that's what he wrote about. It took 7 years to get through this case. And they finally said they're persons when they're in New York.
So then again, the question is, person is just a word. It depends on the context, right? It's not an absolute concept like salt. Whatever salt is, CL, whatever, NaCl. Person is not like salt.
Well, yeah, I guess that's been the question really since 16, whatever it is. What constitutes a human being? It's a really, right?
Well, that's the abortion question, too.
Exactly, right. So this thing, this book has decided, as far as readership is concerned, everyone's a person. It's revolutionary. It was back then. It was really revolutionary, because the minute you read this thing, your life could change.
Well,
And the people that had decided that were very bright.
Yeah,
What about that?
right. It's such a simple question,
Yeah.
but it's profound, and it has so many ramifications to it. So even in, for instance, Grace has stolen Bibles here, of course, because she's Catholic. But here's the thing: you go to a Catholic church, they won't have a Bible in the pews. We know this, right? Okay.
No, I don't know that.
There's-
Is that true? Yes.
You're Catholic.
I went to church, I never realized there was.
They only,
No.
they only have the bulletin or whatever.
You have the bulletin, the prayer book, and
And the missal.
right. That's not the Bible.
But they are passages.
Well, here we
They are
go.
passages from the Bible, the first reading, second reading, and God.
But you don't get a Bible in your pew,
No.
right?
No, that's
Okay.
true.
And so here's the thing. Well, isn't that shocking?
Why?
Well, here's why. The minute you read it, what can happen?
Revolution.
Revolution. That's right. And you can thank Martin Luther for that, who also said, it was 500 years ago. He said, look, he reaffirmed really from the language that all persons can read the Bible. Now, we can have different interpretations and all that kind of thing. We certainly do. But the basic issue of readability and democratization of faith, that's Luther. That's Luther, and that's why you have Bibles in Protestant churches. And we call it the Protestant Reformation, right? It's because people were reading the Bible.
Who's taken those 100 copies of the Bible from this church?
Grace did. She's one of them right there. We're gonna.
Actually, Grace didn't do it.
Who did it?
Her neighbor did.
I would never take a Bible.
I mean, it's really bad. That's a bad one.
Hell, right?
That's a bad. And we lock this place up and everything.
How I get blamed for
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bad.
Is it, so I thought, maybe I misunderstood, but I thought you said you were kidding about the Bibles being stolen.
No,
Oh, it was real. It was real, okay. But not the rose.
10 of them.
No.
10 of them are missing. Well, 9 now.
I mean,
Probably.
now I'm well aware.
Yeah, we're going to hear more about this on Sunday.
Good problem to have.
So
But see, it's really true.
it is true.
Yeah, I mean,
It's shocking.
I just want the audience to be shocked.
Here's. Right, I'm so sorry I brought that up. So here's.
Every Protestant is almost Catholic, because that's where they came from.
Thank you, Bishop Calachico.
Oh, good.
All right. Okay, so I got a lot of that from him. So you can see how this book, I mean, depending on how you read it, it can be a rule book, right? A lot of people read the Bible like it's a rule book. These are the laws. It's a book of ethics, right? That's central. That's what it is. Other people would say, well, no, it's a love story. It's this love story. Other people will say that it's a book about revelation of God, but this is Calvin, by the way. Revelation of God, but also revelation of the person. In other words, you find out who you are when you read this. That's Calvin. And other people will talk about it's really about the freedom to become oneself. All of these things, or almost all of them, have to do with liberation. And people who are in charge of religion typically aren't big on liberation.
It's true.
They want control, right? You don't want what's antinomian is a word. Anti-law, antinomian. You don't want chaos. You've built an institution that you don't want to. you don't want it messed with. You see what I mean? And I can understand that.
They don't want to lose power.
Yeah, you don't want to lose power. But the whole advent of Jesus has to do with transformation. And that's a little tricky. And that's why we're reading the book of Acts. Because it has to do with this monumental movement in the history of the world where things went from batten down the hatches to you're free to be who you are. Now, 300 years, let's say 250 years after Acts, it happens again, right? We've got churches, little churches all over the Mediterranean Rim who are kind of doing their own thing, a little bit like Lyall, right? Lyall reminds me of something. It's a pirate ship, yeah. So, you've got all these churches doing their own thing. They are focusing on certain aspects of the gospel story, of the story of Jesus. Others kind of want to be more Jewish. They're all different. And so it's not until, let's say 325, just for fun. It was about 325 where everything gets codified again. Clunk, 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 clunk. So the Christian church is, well, it's more or less seamless. Like so you're going to get the Apostles' Creed. I believe in God the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth. Before that, that's 325-ish. Before that, they wouldn't answer that. They wouldn't say that. They would say maybe parts of it here and there, but they wouldn't say, yeah, this is what we all believe. They would not do that until...
Was Augustine around in 325?
No, he was before that.
Oh, before.
Yeah, before that. Yeah. So the Confessions and so on.
Yeah. I thought. Yeah, okay.
I'm pretty sure it was before that. So anyway, the Bishop of Hippo. Yeah. Look it up. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong.
No. It was because those
See if I had.
intellectuals, those people who came up with that, were they looking to control, or were they looking to find a common ground? Like, do you know what the impetus was?
Well, I think,
There's two different ways.
as I understand it, the impetus really came from Rome, the Empire of Rome. Constantine, for instance, was the first Christian emperor. Let's say people debate that. How Christian was he?
Which one?
Constantine.
Oh.
Yeah. So you can understand he's got this huge empire with all these different languages and different cultures, all under the umbrella of Rome. And now we're going through this now too, right? It's not unusual for nations to do this. So the British Empire was like that too. So you're trying to find connective tissue with all these various places and people. What are you going to do? How are you going to pull this thing together? You could see that as a real impetus right now in our country. We want to be a Christian nation, right? Christian nationalism is real. That's part of the push. So there's some unity and uniformity to this country, and the same impulse was going on way back then. So what does Constantine do? He's a Christian. He goes, maybe talk to some other people. What are some other possibilities for connection, right? Integration. And finally, they came up with Christianity. That's where we're going, even though it was a minority religion at the time. So that's where we're headed.
That was about 300.
325, yeah, ish.
325.
Yeah, in that neck of the woods. Yeah.
It's interesting. That's when they found it.
Right? I mean, it is interesting, right? When you kind of lift the hood of history. Yeah. See, I wanted to be more interesting than your dentist.
Well, Kristen asked you a good question because, of course, you can't say that it would be true for every single congregation all over the Mediterranean because they wouldn't necessarily have all had confluent, goals. So it is kind of interesting that somebody thought it was important to pull it all together and try to get some uniformity because you could say, why? Like, what's the point? What are people getting out of it? Is it about money? Is it about salvation? Is it like, what's the point? I don't know. That's a good question, I think.
And you get these sort of synergistic issues with politics and power and religion and faith, and it all sort of
Yeah.
crashes into each other.
Maybe it's just that people were used to having control in an imperial sense.
Yeah,
They just were afraid.
no question about it.
They were afraid of,
Mhm.
of disorder and disagreement.
Yep.
Did I read somewhere that Constantine's wife had something to do with?
Either his wife or his mother, one of the two.
Mother,
Yeah.
some woman actually swayed
It's
him.
always a woman.
Yes.
He just wants to get fed, right? So, cookies, throw 'em. Yeah, she was a great baker. Slip that idea in. Yeah, so is that helpful at all? So what are some of the standard questions early? The big one is, who is Jesus? Who is this person? Is he a prophet? Is he a moral leader? Is he a healer? Is he the Messiah? Is he the Son of God? Is he God? Did he really die on the cross? A God worth his salt isn't going to die on a cross. Can't die. Gods don't die. So all these questions about Jesus as far as who he is fomenting all over the place. And they had very limited, access to the Gospels, for instance. And even if you read the Gospels, you can say, well, it's the writer's prerogative to write whatever they want. But is it real? Is it real? Did he die? Was he really raised from the dead? Really? Or was he kind of a phantasm? All these questions, I would say, all those questions are still alive. I hear that stuff all the time.
Yeah.
I do. Do you? I hear that all the time. All the time. So that was really percolating. And Paul comes into the scene a little bit later, pretty soon. But a little bit later, he was a contemporary of Jesus. We're quite certain of that. But he tries to grab this stuff, these big questions, and tries to clarify who Jesus is, and other things too, ethical things in his writings too. But he'll say at the end of the day, if the resurrection is not real, we are the most pitiable persons. We're just, because it all falls apart without the resurrection. I mean, who cares? I mean, you can say, okay, Jesus is then like Gandhi or Martin Luther King. Pick your person that you like. George Washington or.
Who was the first person you said? It sounded like alligator. No.
Gandhi.
Oh, Gandhi.
Yeah, Gandhi. Yeah, Mahatma Gandhi. So, he's of that level, So, okay, you can learn from people like that. But if the resurrection was a actual event, then we're talking a different Turkey. Because that has not happened before, and that has not happened since, that I know of. Right? So if somebody is raised from the dead, that's a person worth listening to, is the idea. That's basically St. Paul's theology. Sorry?
There were so many witnesses who spoke up.
That's right.
And the apostles, and from the
Yep.
book of Acts, people, who would have done that if they hadn't seen it and knew it was true?
And you have to give the Bible credit, especially the New Testament, that people will doubt, even though they're right in front of them. Right in front of them.
Thomas.
Right? It can't. Thomas. Thomas was doubting he was out of the room at the time. He was over at Stewart's or something. But there are people after the resurrection who are right in front of Jesus, And it will say, but some doubted. Which I think is kind of a interesting thing for a holy book to. You would think everybody's a believer, everybody sees it.
People are that way.
Great.
I guess that's a human process.
Yeah.
That's
A
right.
lot of people today
Yeah.
do the same thing. They don't.
You see it and you still don't believe it. Yeah. And we're going to see this again in chapter 2 now. Okay, so you want to launch into this thing? That was prolegomena. That was free information. What's the matter?
What's on your head?
Well, that's all right. What's on your head?
I thought it might be that easy. Oh, I am.
Okay, so this.
I've been looking for them in the right here.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
All right, this is the second chapter of Acts. You know, you can argue it, but I think this is what it's about. This is how it starts, and this is what some consider, I do, the birth of the church, Christian church. Starts here, chapter 2. And again, the book of Acts is what happens after the ministry of Jesus. Before is Luke, the Gospel of Luke. After the ministry of Jesus is the book of Acts. Okay? Somebody want to read 2:1 through 13? Please.
When the day of Pentecost had come, they were all together in one place. And suddenly from heaven there came a sound like the rush of a violent wind, and it filled the entire house where they were sitting. Divided tongues as of fire appeared among them, and a tongue rested on each of them. All of them were filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak in other languages, as the Spirit gave them ability. Now,
Well, why don't we stop? I'm sorry, Mary Jane.
that's okay.
Forgive me. All right, so what do we got so far? Who's in the room?
Holy Spirit, the disciples.
The disciples are up there, and the Holy Spirit comes.
Together.
They're all together. Are they in the same room where they've been?
It's good, man.
Yeah, probably were. Yeah, they got a lease for a month. Right? Well, you know, there's probably something like that probably happened. Pastors just goofing around.
Yeah.
So, when you go to a Methodist church, I know we have Methodists here. You'll see this. Typically, a door on a Methodist church is the color red, and that's red. They have red doors. Almost all, not all. Many Methodist churches have red doors.
Why?
Because of this, tongues of fire.
Oh.
Yeah, and in their right, and in their on their
Yeah.
logo, they have the fire. It comes from this passage right here, right? Okay. Okay. So these people, and they were all filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak in other tongues as the Spirit gave them utterance. Anybody want to weigh in on that one? This happens to me all the time. Sunday morning, usually.
Oh, you mean you get endowed with the ability to speak other languages?
Well, that's what people are. Gibberish is what people call it.
It's
How do you get?
gibberish. You know, like I have friends who, they make gibberish noises and they think they're speaking in tongues. That's not my interpretation of this.
It's,
My interpretation is that they were speaking in the languages of the people who were around them and understood it.
as we'll see,
It's like the UN. You know, somebody speaks the UN.
We all have their-
Everybody's hearing it in their own language.
right? Good. Yeah, it's a really good example.
Maybe that's where they
The word is there, language, so it's not gibberish.
It's not gibberish, but
That's
some
what I
people
would
think
think.
that they are speaking in tongues when, you know, a friend who says, oh yeah, she speaks in tongues. It's gibberish.
The babbling.
Yeah.
The tower, when they built the tower, in the Old Testament.
Glossolalia,
They
I
built
think.
the tower and the people all were speaking in
That's right.
all these languages.
And God was thrilled about that one.
Sounded like all
babbling, you know.
That's right. That's, AI is the new Tower of Babel.
Gosh.
Yeah, it is, right? It will be. It is right now. It's happening.
That's a good point, though, that you made about the Tower of Babel. And I don't really understand the whole, I've heard of the Tower of Babel, but I don't really know what it is. But I was thinking, what could have been the progenitor or the original concept of this idea of many languages? And it could be the Tower of Babel.
Oh, it definitely is. Oh,
Yeah.
oh yeah, yeah. This is the counterweight to the Tower of Babel. It's the counterweight. Yeah. And there's a lot of that in the Bible. There's this, and now there's this. Yeah, there's a lot of examples like that in the Bible. So in the Tower of Babel, what was that about? Who was being raised up?
People, the
They,
engineers.
People, right? Aren't we something, right? Isn't that the idea of the Tower of Babel? If you know that story,
Right.
that's the point. Aren't we great? What's the story of this one? What's behind this? Isn't God great?
Yeah, he can do
See?
this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a corrective. Isn't God great? Not aren't we great?
Yeah.
You get that in cities too. It used to be that the highest tower was a church steeple. Right? If you go to any major city in the world, now it's business. Right?
Many.
Yeah, money. The Times just came out with this article about these pencil towers where the billionaires live. There's all cracks in
Park
them.
Avenue, yeah.
Yeah, there's cracks all over the place.
Good.
Yeah. Oops. Right, oops. Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, that's exciting and fun. But, yeah.
What was the point in the Tower of Babel? Like, why was it, aren't we great? Like, what were they doing with all those languages? What's the point?
Well, they wanted
They wanted to reach
they were
that.
building it to heaven. They were going to walk up this,
Oh,
they were gonna build a tower all the way up to heaven.
Yeah, it's really, it's a moment of extreme egotism,
I see.
you know.
Oh, I have to read that.
Yeah. So this is a corrective.
What we can do.
This is a corrective. I wonder if God knew that. Is God underneath this story? Like, remember the Old Testament story of the Tower of Babel? What about this?
Well, this
I wonder how much God is involved in this.
But it says they're filled with the Holy Spirit, so God's in each one of them.
I would say God is involved in this.
Yeah. 'Cause
These correctives, there's correctives all along. There's another one too, a big one, having to do with the law of God. The law of God, right? There's correctives, and that the corrective of the law is Jesus. Right? Okay. You don't throw out the law, but it humanizes the law. Okay, so let's see who's there in the neighborhood overhearing this. Remember, everybody's in Jerusalem, right? There's a big festival, so they're all there, right? Lots of people. Okay, Mary Jane, you want to let it rip?
Now there were devout Jews from every nation under heaven living in Jerusalem. And at this sound the crowd gathered and was bewildered, because each one heard them speaking in the native language of each. Amazed and astonished, they asked, "Are not all these who are speaking Galileans? And how is it that we hear each of us in our own native language? Parthians, Tania, Judea, and Cappadocia, Pontus and Asia, Phrygia, and Pamphylia, Egypt, and the parts of Libya belonging to Cyrene, and visitors from Rome, both Jews and proselytes, Cretans and Arabs in our own language. We hear them speaking about God's deeds of power. All were amazed and perplexed, saying to one another, "What does this mean?" But others sneered and said, "They are filled with new wine."
Yeah, they're drunk. So getting back to Karen's point, these are people that are hearing their own language. So you may not understand what that person's saying, but this person over here is speaking your language. No, okay, so let me just tell you about my old friend, Fanny Gast. She's older, she was in her 80s when I met her, and we became friends because we both smoked a pipe. She was from Arkansas, and we were both living in Amsterdam. She married a sailor, a Dutch sailor. They were married for years and years. And she spoke perfect Dutch with a southern accent. Het maakt with jou. So
She learned it in Amsterdam.
yeah, she learned Dutch in Amsterdam, but she spoke with a southern accent, heavy southern accent. So, I've always pictured the scene like that. So you're hearing in your own language, but these people have Galilean accents. Right? Yeah, I think so. It's a sweet little moment in my mind about that. But I think, getting back to what we were talking about in the beginning of our time together, when somebody says they are speaking my language, now you're talking my language. Yeah. It's really profound. It's not just when we talk about translation, right? We can do a kind of a woodenly literal translation of anything. When you get a little app on your phone, for instance, it'll translate, right? You go anywhere in the world now, it'll translate. And those translations are pretty woodenly literal, right? Cat is cat, and so on. But I think here, and also throughout at least the New Testament, they're trying to speak to this, right? You're talking my language.
You don't just hear it, you feel it.
You feel it, and and this has also to do with, I think, theology. Does God want to communicate with you? I mean, really, really communicate in your manner. You see what I mean? It's a profound moment. In other words, God's not saying, okay, you learn classical Greek and then we'll talk. It goes the other way. It's like, I throw this out once in a while to impress you on a Sunday. Ein van ons. He is one of us. He is one of us. He's going to talk to you and to me in a way that we understand.
And still, we are reminded that even some of those people there feeling, seeing, hearing this, didn't believe it.
Right. Well, that's the next little piece too. Well, they're drunk. That's why they're doing. That's what's going on. They've been drinking, and it's early it's in the morning. But I've known a number of alcoholics who have said that's possible. It doesn't matter if it's 9 o'clock in the morning. Well, that's why you have a Bloody Mary, right? So I want to kind of stay with this a minute. This is a revolutionary moment that, we've lived in the United States, and have a certain amount of freedom, and we have a certain amount of expectation. We want to be treated well. You're coming to me, I'm a customer. So we've had a long time with that, many of us. That's not the reality here. If you're down here, you're going to work to get up here, and then I will speak to you. This is the opposite of that. And especially if you believe in God, for instance, if you believe in God and a God that will condescend, lower himself to one's level, that is a terribly classy thing to do, I think, and gracious thing to do. don't you?
You know, it reminds me in teaching, you're supposed to teach, you're supposed to go where the students are
There you go.
and bring them up. We don't stay here and
That's right.
pull them up.
Yeah. We're going to go together. We're going to go together. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, well, hear it from a master teacher.
Your physical way, you don't talk down to someone, you sit next to them or get below.
Or you get on the floor,
Try to comfort someone.
right? You get on the floor, right? And that is so odd when you compare that with other religions. It's a really odd approach that God would, like, what are you doing? You know,
Yeah.
you're supposed to be, and we keep wanting to jam them back up there too, right? We maybe don't want them so close, but that is the impulse of God, is to come to us. It's shock. I've been at this. I've been a Christian 50 years. I still can't get over it. I can't get over it. Why would you do that? I mean, what is the motivation to do that, for a God to do that? It's just shocking to me. As you can hear it in my voice, I'm still shocked by it. And then does that then encourage a person to be oneself with God? Right? Like your prayer life, for instance. I mean, can you be yourself? I mean, does God really mean it? Here I am, you know. This is a very strange, and you can see why there's an explosion of people that want to get on board with this. You know, count me in if this is the God who cares. I mean, he cares. Very few other people care. But this God is a very, very different than the others that we know, and also how power is wielded in Rome in this case. You know, the Roman Empire doesn't care about me. But this one does. I mean, it's so personal. It's really shocking. I find it terribly shocking.
Well, do you think the Old Testament God cared? Do you think,
Yeah, I do.
I mean, do you think people believed he cared?
I do. Yeah, I do. It's the beginning of it. It's the beginning of it.
Because I don't think the Greek and Roman gods cared.
No, they don't give a damn about who a person is.
Anybody thought they cared, or the Egyptian ones or
Maybe if you get your act together and have a proper whatever and climb up the hill, maybe we can talk. Maybe. But otherwise, no. Clean your act up. Get your act together. And then maybe we'll talk. Maybe we'll talk.
Because in the Old Testament,
St. Paul thought that, by the way.
I mean, God was always going to help the Hebrews get their act together and get more territory and win their battles and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you don't get, I don't know, do you care about their sufferings?
I do, yeah, I do believe, yeah, through the prophets, they would speak to that. The Psalms would speak to that. The book of Job would speak to that.
Right.
So yeah, there's a lot of pastoral, you know, I'm with you. Psalm 23 is a good example. We hear it all the time at funerals. Yeah, there's a person, but that's like I've talked about this before too, that's like a thread of gold running through the Old Testament in a coal mine. Because there's other things that are kind of coal, I would say. That's my opinion. This is my opinion. But with the advent of Jesus, it goes like a prism, blows out. Yeah.
Because I think this is something. But the Psalms, I once read the whole thing at once because I was looking for Psalm for my husband's funeral service. You know, and like 2/3, 3/4 of the Psalms are about winning a battle.
Yeah, sure. Or complaining, like complaining.
So there are a few, like the 21st Psalm.
There's some paranoia in
And there are a few
there.
others,
Yeah.
but they're not the majority. But that's a very good point. I like the way you.
Yeah, it's one way to look at it. I'm not saying that's right, but that's how I have it in my head. So we talked about, language and God is speaking our own voice. If that's true, I mean, do you believe that? I mean, that's up to the reader to believe it, or the hearer. But right at the end, too, that Helen was talking about, even there, people said, they're drunk. They're drunk. It doesn't say everyone believed. You see what I mean? And I think that takes quite a bit of courage for a holy book to say, well, there's a possibility of rejecting it, which I think also is terribly classy. You can say no. You can say no.
Well, and it helps you now, because, people still sneer.
Right. And we all, maybe a lot of us do from time to time in our lives as well, right? Yeah, you can say no. It's not for me. And what I'm seeing is not real.
So you just turned it off?
Yeah, I did, because I'm about to talk for a little while. Sorry, I have this every year. It's a human frailty. As much as I thought it was going to be. Okay, so everybody's on board with that? There's a respect. Really, especially in the New Testament, there's a real respect for a person's right to say no. Now, when you're helping a loved one or friend who's going through a terrible time, do you respect them to say, to make decisions that you wouldn't make?
And still love them.
And still love them? Mm-hmm.
But as Kristen said when we were talking earlier, you should call 911, even if they say no.
Oh, we were just talking about that.
You said you should call.
I mean, that's basic Al-Anon kind of thinking.
Yeah.
You respect and love the person even if they're going to destroy themselves.
But
They have a right to destroy themselves.
I still think you should call 911. You think you should call them.
I might call 911 if I'm watching it, and I would go. I'd jump in the ambulance. Let them. Yeah, that's hard to do. It's hard to watch people suffer that you love, right? Even the ones you don't love. It's hard to watch. Really hard.
I had to persuade somebody to have a drink of water yesterday who was feeling faint. She really didn't want to, and then luckily somebody else came along and agreed with me, so she did drink water. But that, sometimes you have to.
Well, you can be encouraging, right? And
Well, I couldn't pour it down her throat.
no, right. There's the line. But we've talked about people, if there's a hell and a heaven, I think there is, besides where we're living presently. At the end of the day and this is another theological discussion that's been going on forever, is can anyone go to heaven even if they don't know anything about Jesus, if they have never heard, or they're a wretch and they just redecide at some point? Is the gate open and left open? And then is hell empty? Or do people, even given what they know maybe about heaven and what's possible, they still say no? They still say no? I'm sure there are people like that. No. So God goes, okay, are you naming people? Lynn, that's awful.
She does it all the time.
Do you? That is not your responsibility to start naming people and pointing at somebody here in the sanctuary. It's horrible. Although I agree with you on a couple of them. All right. So that gets back to the power of choice for the person. John Calvin would say, I hate to point at you always, Jim, forgive me. John Calvin would say that God's grace is irresistible. In other words, when you are confronted by the grace of God, there's no way you can say no to it. I disagree with that. I disagree with Calvin on that one. I mean, I want to believe that, but I don't. But that's the idea. When you've been encountered by a gracious God with a transforming message, you're going to say yes. You're going to say yes.
God chooses his people.
Well, he would
You
go.
don't get a chance to choose.
Well, we could argue about that because later on he takes that back a little bit. But that's early Calvin. You learn that at Calvin College, of course. We have to read all that stuff over and over. But what he's saying is not only is God's grace impossible to say no to, but on top of it, God will give you the faith so you can say yes. That was 450 years ago or so. And so it's just to say that people are still talking about it. Important, smart people are talking about this stuff. Can you say no? And here, this story seems to suggest pretty strongly that you can say no. They're drunk.
So if you say no, and you continue to say no, what happens to you?
You go to hell.
Oh, shit. Yeah, that's what no purgatory.
Well, Hell, Michigan. There is a Hell, Michigan. It's over by Ypsilanti, Detroit. I think, does God respect one's determination?
Whatever hell is.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Whether it's just separation or whatever.
Yeah, that's iffy too. I mean, these are subjective matters on this side of death.
There are so many people, like even in my life, that don't believe this. They believe
Sure.
some way, somehow everybody is going to go to heaven.
And maybe they will. I don't know. Unless you're saying, I don't want to, thanks for the offer, but I'm not interested. Or I'll go my own way, or I'll go, okay. And even in something like the Apostles' Creed, where we say Jesus, after Jesus died, 3 days, he descended into hell, right? And then the question, what does he do between dying on the cross and resurrecting? That's the question. Where is he? So the people that formed the Apostles' Creed said, he went to hell. Well, why would you do that?
We had to go somewhere.
Well, thank you, Margaret.
To heaven, you had to. Well, they don't have the pearly gates in the Apostles'.
No, they don't. We made that up. Some people would say, he went down to go get his friends and say, come on, let's try it again. There's a huge painting in Venice at St. Marco's Square. There's a convent there, a monastery. It's about as big as that wall. And it's about Jesus, about that very thing, Jesus going into hell to preach to those that are there. And what I love about that painting is there's a lot of volunteers from heaven who want to go down with him to see if they could help. It's a beautiful painting. It's fantastic. It's in St. Marco's Square in that St. Marco's monastery that flows out into the square. Yeah, it's right behind you. Right when you go out the door, it's behind you. I just turned around and just happened to see it.
So I have driven someone away who, this person believed that if you're a good person and you do good things, you'll go to heaven.
Mm-hmm. You hear that all the time.
I was saying that might not necessarily be so. That's not necessarily the way you get to heaven. You have to believe in, the atonement, and so forth and so on. And
So this person is, he's like not buying this. He's like, I don't want to be
Sure.
part of this way of believing
Yeah,
that, you know, it is possible to say no and not, I mean, you know, is Hitler going to get to heaven and so forth and so on. And he still is like not, still not
yeah.
going to say yes.
It's offensive. It's the idea of God's grace is very offensive.
I'm afraid.
I'm already good enough. I'm a good person. You're not telling me. You hear, you know what I mean? You get that attitude a lot, and
Yeah, they think God, you get to heaven by works, and
Right.
you don't. I mean, the Bible tells you that again and again.
over and over and over. Yeah, but it's really offensive. Yeah,
I just think.
that I'm not good enough. Of course, I'm good enough.
I never worry about it because I think God's in charge of time. And so when you die to us, He's got plenty of time to talk to you. And it seems to me that few people who write these stories about dying who were complete atheists, who then saw the light and got that opportunity, and they were complete atheists. And they had there's a couple people
Moment.
written that story of
Yeah.
this is what happened to me and I came out of it.
Yeah.
So it's like what we as people can pray for our families, but you gotta let it go.
Sure.
It's not up to us.
Well, then the other side of it too.
And
I mean,
he's so
well,
powerful. He could do it in a.
well, God can do whatever God. That's right. That's what God can do. But we're any good at it, being God. I mean, there's another argument too. I mean, these are old arguments and
Right.
questions, you know. Another one is, well, if God is going to take everybody in, why even bother being a person of faith? Just live your life, party on, because God will let you in no matter what at the end of it. That is a very good question, I think. If grace covers all things,
Right.
then don't worry about it. Live whatever you want. Luther is a little bit like that. Luther is a little bit like that. He had a friend who was just racked with guilt and all this, another monk. And he said, God's going to forgive you. Just, live it up a little bit.
Lighten up.
And sin boldly. You know that little phrase? Sin boldly. That's Luther. To his friend. Make it worth your while, So, like, for instance, Karl Barth, if that name rings a bell, they made me study Karl Barth a lot in seminary. Anyway, he was called a nascent universalist because God's grace is so great that everybody's going to get in, right? Okay, that's Karl Barth, and that's part of Karl Barth is the elevation of God's grace, that it's kind of hyper Calvinist almost in that way. Anyway, I'm getting bogged down. But people would complain to him and say, well, then why not? Just live your life any way you want. If you know you're going to get in, so what? How you love, right? And he then would ask the question, does not a life with Christ make our lives better?
Yes.
If that's the case, then why don't you start early?
Yeah, or I call it hell,
Right.
hell on earth. Do you want to live that way?
Right.
Then you're having your hell now.
Right. Well, that's another side of this, right?
When you're in
Yeah.
Christian fellowship or whatever, there's just such an elevation of
Yeah.
things in your life.
Right. You could start heaven or hell now, you choose.
Yeah, yeah.
My mother believed that heaven, purgatory is now. She says, living through earth on earth
Oh, yeah.
is purgatory.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Yeah,
I can see that.
because it's hard.
Sure. Well, obviously we are demonstrating what it's like to be a pirate congregation.
Yes. We all believe.
This is what makes it fun to be a minister here too. It's like wild horses. But I really appreciate everything that you had to say, and I'm excited for next week. And we'll just keep charging away, right? We'll do the best we can. And
This class a little long, it goes too fast.
I find it tiresome. It's terrible. Who says that? Who says that? It's terrible to say that.
The Catholic.
Oh my God. No, I Anyway.
Thank you.
No, well, that's fine. That, you want a little bit more. Okay, we'll see you next week, I hope.
No, this is